Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kristen. It's the holiday season. You're probably starting to figure out what kinds of gifts you're gonna buy for yourself, for your family, for your friends, and maybe you wanna buy somebody a book and just don't know what to buy them. Hi, I'm here to help you out. I have picked a set of books that I think would be great presents for readers, non-readers, what have you, just anybody that you're thinking about buying a book for. But first, if you haven't checked out my December TBR, I would highly suggest watching that video, especially because I call on you to help me decide what books I read in December. I would appreciate all of your input so I can make the best decision. Also, if you're not subscribed to my channel, I would highly suggest doing that, as well as turning on your notification bell so that you're notified every time I upload a video. I thoroughly enjoyed all of these books that I am going to mention in this video, but I tried to pick a set of books that weren't gonna make it into my top 10 books of 2020 so that we're not talking about the same things over and over again on this channel. So these books I absolutely adored. I either read them this year or last year. They're probably not gonna make it into my top 10 reads of the year, but I still really love them and think that everybody should read them. I'm going to talk about some memoirs. There'll be some fantasy, dystopian, science fiction books in here. So honestly, something for everyone within these books. So firstly, I'm going to recommend two memoirs that I think everybody should read, whether you live in the US or not. I just think that these people are phenomenal and inspiring, and I just want to be like them when I grow up. And of course, those two books are Becoming by Michelle Obama and A Promised Land by Barack Obama, which just came out. I really love these two people and I really enjoyed reading Becoming. I read that last year, listened to it on audiobook since it is narrated by Michelle Obama. I really enjoyed reading about her life, her upbringing, and how her and Barack met and how their relationship unfolded and how Michelle felt about Barack running for president and how she wanted to make sure that Sasha and Malia were still kept safe and were able to be children and allowed to live a normal life still, while also fulfilling the duties of being first lady and first daughter. So I really had a great time reading Becoming. And then for Barack's book, A Promised Land, I haven't had the chance to read that yet. My sister went and bought it the other day because she also was very excited to read this book. I will say it's a very chunky book. This is pretty heavy compared to Michelle's book. So I'm really excited to see what Barack is talking about in this book. The next book I think you should all put on your wish list, if you haven't read this book already, is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. The entire trilogy should be on your wish list. There are 3 books, but here's the first one. It's called Scythe, and as you can see, I tabbed the heck out of this thing because I loved it so much. I honestly think this is the first book I annotated ever, when I started annotating last year. I'm pretty sure this was my first go at it. But in this book, we are in a world where there's no hunger, no disease, no war, because humans have conquered all of these things, and so there's no need for death. The only people that can end lives are scythes, and their sole purpose is population control. 2 characters in this book, Citra and Rowan, are chosen as apprentices to be scythes, but neither of them is about that life. They're not trying to be scythes, but of course, if you're chosen, you have to live this life. And so we're just following their journey, being trained to be scythes. There's lots of drama, lots of plot twists. This was just so creative. The idea was very creative. The way that the books were executed were very good. Scythe was my favorite one of the trilogy, but I also really enjoyed Thunderhead. And the third book, The Toll, it was okay. It was still really good, but it just wasn't satisfying. But Scythe just holds the title of being my favorite one of the trilogy. The next book I'm going to mention is written by one of my all-time favorite authors. I will always buy any book she writes because every time I've read a book written by her, I just fall in love. I read the books quickly and then it just impacts my life when I think about it all the time. And that book is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. I read The Hate You Give as well. Love that book, but I'm going to specifically talk about On the Come Up because since The Hate You Give became a movie, I would say more people know about The Hate You Give, and then this is her newer release, and so I don't know if people know about this one as much as they know about The Hate You Give. But I also thoroughly enjoyed this book and think that it was very, again, impactful and left a lasting impression on me. In this book, we're following a 16-year-old Bree who wants to be a rapper. She is the daughter of a hip-hop legend who died when she was very young, but now Bree thinks she's ready to give rapping a try and just wants to start creating music. She creates a viral song, but she ends up being labeled as like a hoodlum and ghetto and all these kind of things, and that's not who she is, and that's not the look that she was going for when she created the song and released it to the world. But Brie has to make it in the rapping world because her family, they're facing an eviction notice. They're not doing so well financially, so she needs to make it big so that she can help her family out and provide for them. So she has to decide if she wants to go through with this false portrayal of her or just quit rapping altogether. So y'all know I have to talk about some fantasy books that I think you should put on your wish list because that is my favorite genre to read, and boy, do I have a lot of recommendations. I'm not gonna give you all the recommendations because then that would just make this video really, really long, but I will give you a couple of suggestions. I also am just gonna name a bunch of books that I myself haven't even read, but I just know I'm gonna love, and that I think you should put on your wish list. So in terms of young adult fantasy, I would definitely highly recommend Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I read this book early this year, absolutely loved it. I read it actually with my brother and my mom. Well, we read this book together. They're still reading the second book, even though I finished that a long time ago. They're slacking, I don't know. This book takes place in Orisha, where magic used to be all up and through the soil. People were using magic on a daily. Until one day, magic just up and disappeared. The king began to target the Magi and kill them. Our main character, Zeli, she is tasked with bringing back magic. She is the one person who has an inkling of a chance of bringing back the magic. And so she, with the help of a rogue princess, they team up together to bring back magic to Orisha. But of course, the crown prince is trying to stop all of this from going on. He is trying to make sure that magic does not come back to Orisha. Another young adult fantasy that I would recommend is going to be A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I love Beauty and the Beast retelling. So if you like Beauty and the Beast retellings, I would say go for this and try it out. It won't disappoint. I still haven't read the second book, A Heart So Fierce and Broken, but I want to read that soon because I know the third book is coming out in 2021 as well. Also, I will be doing a most anticipated 2021 release video, so stay tuned for that. And I mean, spoiler, that one will be on my list. In this book, we are following Prince Ren, who was cursed by an enchantress to constantly repeat the autumn of his 18th birthday over and over until he can get a girl to fall in love with him. And on the other hand, we have Harper, who has cerebral palsy, so there's some disability representation in this book. I love how it's done. Harper lives in Washington, D.C., and one day she's trying to save a stranger on the street, and then all of a sudden she's just pulled into this magical world and meets Prince Ren. Will Harper fall in love with Prince Ren? Will she help break this curse? You gotta read it to find out. I know I said I wasn't going to spoil any of my books that are gonna make it into the top 10, but I can't not recommend this book because I love it so much, and that is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I love this book, and this is an adult fantasy, a paranormal romance, so be warned, but I highly suggest buying this book if you're into this kind of stuff, and I promise you won't be disappointed. And lastly, a few fantasy books that I haven't read yet, but I just want to mention because like I said earlier, I just know I'm gonna love them. We have An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, which I have heard great things about. Really want to read this book ASAP. Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, which I will be getting to this month in December. Legend Born by Tracy Dion. I just am so pumped to read this book, and I just know I'm gonna love it. So I would also put this on your wish list. And lastly, Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is an adult fantasy. Again, just heard so many great things about it. So add this to your wish list too. If you're looking for a sci-fi book to read, I would, of course, recommend the Illuminae Files series, but that's talked about a lot. That's a lot of people's responses to what sci-fi you should read. So if I had to pick another sci-fi book that I think would be a great addition to add to your wish list, I would say Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is a young adult science fiction, and look, it matches my makeup and my outfit. In this book, we are following Spencer, who is training to be a pilot. Her dad was a pilot, but he was killed when he deserted his team, and now Spencer is left with her reputation, and there is a slim to none chance that she will be accepted into pilot school. She is determined to figure out what happened with her father, what the true story is, because she refuses to believe that her father deserted his team and betrayed everyone. The story was really well written. I loved the characters in this book, the side characters, Spencer herself, and the ending shook me. So I'm really excited to pick up book 2, which is called Starsight. I would definitely say add anything Tiffany D. Jackson or Elizabeth Acevedo on your list if you haven't already. Those two authors are phenomenal, some of my favorite authors. I did read Monday's Not Coming in October, and I did a reading vlog on that, so check that out if you want to see my thoughts, but I really enjoyed this book. Lastly, I want to go through some movie adaptations that were first books and then later adapted to a movie or a TV show, because I feel like that's a good way to get people to read. Like, oh, did you see this movie? Did you know that I was a book first? Do you want to read the book and then see if you enjoyed that? Some of the books that I own that have been turned into movies that I enjoyed both the book and the movie are Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. I've read the first and the second book because of course I had to read the books before I watched the Netflix adaptations. So I enjoyed both the book and the movie for these, and I would recommend them. I would also recommend The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I loved this book. I ate it up. It is a love at first sight type of story, so if that's not something you believe in or something that you're not really messing with, then you're probably not gonna like this book because they like fall in love in a day. But again, I ate this up and I went and saw the movie with my sister, and it was just so cute, and I felt all the feels and all the emotions for these two characters. And lastly, I have A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I personally have not read this book, this series, but my brother is reading this book currently, and he wanted to make sure I added this book into this recommendations video because he's enjoying this book. He loves Game of Thrones. I'm currently on season 3 of my first go around of watching Game of Thrones, and I'm also thoroughly enjoying the TV show, but I don't know if I'll ever read this book. But if you really enjoyed Game of Thrones, I would still recommend this book. And also my brother says to listen to the audiobook. That is the way to go to get through this chunker of a book. So those are just a few books that I would recommend you buy for yourself or for your friends this holiday season. You won't be disappointed with any of the books that I've mentioned, whether I've read them or not. Just trust me. To wrap it up, I'll just name a couple of books that are on my wish list that I plan on purchasing for myself or for some of my family and friends. So on here I have These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, which is a new release. We have When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. I still want to get to that. Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. City of Brass, that series I want to get to. Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. The Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon. So again, those are just to name a few of the books that I have on my wish list. I hope this video has helped you choose some new books, discover some new books that sound interesting to you or for someone in your life. If you like this video, please give it a big like, comment down below, subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and make sure your notification bell is turned on so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Also in the description box, you can find my Goodreads and my Twitter account if you want to follow me on any of those social media accounts, as well as my Amazon wish list if you want to support me and my channel by gifting me a book. If you made it to the end of this video, please comment a snowflake emoji so I know that you've watched this video all the way through. And also comment down some books that are on your wish list and that are on your radar this holiday season. I will see you guys in my next Bookmas video. Thank you for watching so much. Have a great day. Bye!